Have you ever heard of a king who got his throne through a coup but then spent his entire reign trying to reform the very system that put him there? It sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, today we're diving into the dramatic and complex life of King Jungjong, the 11th ruler of Korea's Joseon dynasty. His story is a roller coaster of power, betrayal, and a relentless quest for change against impossible odds. Jungjong wasn't born to be king. His original name was Joseon, and he was the half-brother of the infamous tyrant, King Joseon. Life under Joseon was terrifying. He was known for his brutal purges, lavish spending, and turning sacred places into his personal party grounds. The officials and the people lived in constant fear. As the atmosphere of terror grew, a group of high-ranking officials decided they had enough. They couldn't risk another day under Joseon's rule. So, in 1506, they staged a secret, lightning-fast coup. Imagine this. One moment you're a quiet prince, trying to stay out of your tyrannical brother's way, and the next, soldiers are at your door. Joseon was initially terrified, thinking his brother had finally sent assassins for him. His wife, the future Queen Jungjong, bravely stood in his way, ready to face them. But these soldiers weren't there to harm him. They were there to make him king. They stormed the palace, deposed Joseon, and placed Joseon on the throne. Just like that, he became King Jungjong. But here's the first twist. The very first decision he had to make as king was a heartbreaking one. The coup leaders forced him to depose his own wife, Queen Jungjong. Why? Because her father was a loyal supporter of the deposed king, and they feared he would seek revenge. Jungjong, powerless against the officials who just gave him the crown, had to send away the woman who had stood by him. It's said that for the rest of her life, she would stand on a mountain overlooking the palace, and Jungjong would gaze back from his pavilion, a silent, tragic conversation between two separated lovers. This early tragedy set the tone for his entire reign. A king with good intentions, constantly constrained by the powerful forces around him. Once on the throne, Jungjong was determined to be everything his brother wasn't. He wanted to undo the damage of Joseon's rule and create a more just and stable society. He reopened the Royal University, the Seongyungwan, and brought back scholars who had been exiled. He was eager to listen to new ideas and create a government based on Confucian ideals, not fear. This is where a key figure enters our story, Jo Guangzhou. Jo Guangzhou was a brilliant and passionate young scholar, a rock star of the Neo-Confucian movement. He was exactly what Jungjong was looking for. Full of integrity and radical ideas, Jo Guangzhou believed the government was corrupt and needed a complete overhaul. Jungjong gave him his full support, promoting him rapidly through the ranks. Together they launched a series of sweeping reforms. They aimed to distribute land more fairly, establish a system of local self-government, and reduce the number of government positions filled by undeserving nobles. Their most ambitious goal was to promote officials based on merit, not connections. They even tried to create a new, simplified version of Chinese characters to increase literacy among the common people. For a brief moment, it felt like a golden age of reform was dawning in Joseon. But as you might guess, not everyone was happy. The established conservative officials, many of whom had put Jungjong on the throne, saw their power and privileges slipping away. They saw Jo Guangzhou as an arrogant upstart who was threatening their entire way of life. They began to whisper in the king's ear, planting seeds of doubt. They used a clever and sinister trick. One night, they wrote a phrase on palace leaves with honey. "Joe will become the king." Ants, attracted to the honey, ate away the leaf, leaving the characters perfectly etched. When King Jungjong saw these leaves, he was deeply disturbed. Was his most trusted reformer secretly plotting to overthrow him? The pressure mounted. The conservative faction accused Jo Guangzhou and his followers of being a dangerous clique, disrupting the harmony of the state. Jungjong, who had risen to power through a coup himself, was paranoid about loyalty. Torn between his vision for reform and his fear of another betrayal, he finally gave in. This led to the Third Literati Purge of 1519, known as the Gimyo-Sahwa. In a shocking reversal, Jungjong ordered the arrest of Joseon and his supporters. Joseon, the man who had been the king's right hand, was forced to drink poison in exile. His ambitious reforms were dismantled, and the dream of a new Joseon died with him. It was a tragic end to a promising movement, and a moment that would haunt Jungjong for the rest of his life. After the purge, Jungjong's reign took a different turn. He never fully trusted any of his officials again. His court became a battleground for powerful noble families, especially the families of his various queen consorts, who were all vying for influence and power. The king found himself balancing these competing factions, trying to maintain a delicate peace, but unable to push through any significant changes. Despite the political turmoil, his long reign of nearly 39 years wasn't without achievements. He focused on practical matters, strengthening national defense against Japanese pirates and Yurkin tribes to the north. He also commissioned important books on medicine, geography, and ethics, leaving a valuable cultural legacy. He tried, in his own way, to be a good king, but the shadow of the coup and the failed reforms always loomed large. King Jungjong's story is a classic tale of a ruler caught between his ideals and the harsh realities of politics. He started with the noble goal of fixing a broken kingdom, but was ultimately trapped by the very people who gave him power. He had the vision, but lacked the political strength to see it through, a tragic flaw that defined his rule. His reign serves as a powerful reminder that even with the best intentions, changing an entrenched system is a monumental and often heartbreaking task. He passed away in 1544, leaving behind a kingdom that was more stable than the one he inherited, but far from the ideal society he and Joseon had once dreamed of building. What do you think? Was Jungjong a weak king who gave up on his ideals, or was he a pragmatic ruler doing the best he could in an impossible situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into Korean history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories like this one. See you next time.